Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Joining us on today's show is David Wrighton, the chairman of the board of the Norse Huss Fest in Minot, North Dakota. David, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for asking me.
Well, now, as you join us today, of course, for the folks out there who may not know you, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you're originally from.
I was born and raised in North Dakota. I came to Minot, North Dakota, where I finished high school. I came there in 1955. Graduated from Minot High, and then I went on to Concordia College and graduated from there. And then I went on to law school at UND and went there, graduated, and private practice of law for 5 years. I was an assistant attorney general for about 3 years. And then I joined my family in the television business and been in it since 1985 officially and 1955 unofficially.
Well, okay, and obviously, since you mentioned that, we're going to go to the Norse Huss Fest pretty soon, but you obviously have been at KX for a great number of years. Chester Wrighton, your father, and I understand I just recently have sold or selling the station.
My father came to Minot, North Dakota in 1955 to run KXMC TV under John Bowler. And it's been in the Wrighton family for 60 years, added Williston, Bismarck, Dickinson, and now after 60 years, the Wrighton family is going to leave the television business. And the 60 years is almost unprecedented, I think, in television in America. That is a long, long time for a family to be actively involved. And it was just time. My siblings and I are getting up there, and it was just looking at the landscape of television and broadcasting. The big boys you're going to need them to help you along. Wow.
Well, all I want to say is good luck to you on that aspect of it. You've been a great partner for Prairie Public, and we always appreciated local ownership in the state of North Dakota. So,
well, our relationship with Prairie Public has been a win-win situation over the last few decades, and I greatly appreciate all the work that Prairie Public has done in conjunction with KXMC and Wrighton Television.
No, thank you for that. Now let's get off and move on to what you're here to talk about, and that is the Norse Huss Fest. And it's a name well known in North Dakota, but talk about the history a little bit. When did the Norse Huss Fest start, and how did it start?
It started 38 years ago. This is basically the 38th Norse Huss Fest, and it was started by basically my father's idea, who got together with some friends, and they just wanted a festival in North Dakota, Scandinavian, Norwegian. But to take it a step further, what my father found out, his father died in 1973. And he left some envelopes and some letters that were all in Norwegian. And so my father, of course, didn't know any Norwegian in 1973, so he found somebody that could interpret these and found out that they came from Norway, and over the last couple of years, he was kind of let them sit. And then he saw the TV movie Roots. And that was about an African-American family, how they came up through the years. And he just wanted to find out what his roots were. And so he finally went and wrote to basically a post office or official in Norway and said, my father had these letters, they came from Norway, and yada, yada, yada. And so he went up and he took a tour of Norway and met some relatives. And from that, he just wanted to celebrate his Norwegian roots and at the same time everybody's ethnic roots. It was rather unique, and so he started it. A bunch of Lutheran churches got together and sell Rumagrot and Kumkaka and Lutefisk, and from there it just expanded and grew.
Well, it really has. And that's what my next question would be. How has it grown? Who comes to it? How many people attend each year?
Well, what it was for the first couple of years as they were selling these, Lutherans getting together and selling this, it was kind of holding its own. It was in the Minot Civic Auditorium. And then you heard about a musician out there that was semi-famous that would play at the events. And it was a rather nominal sum, at least to my father, so he says, well, let's get a hold of Myron Floren. So he contacted Myron Floren and said, would you come to our little Norwegian Scandinavian ethnic festival for $2,000 or whatever it was? And Myron Floren showed up with this accordion, and they came in droves. People showed up and filled the auditorium, and of course, Myron Floren is just a wonderful entertainer. He gets in with the crowd, loves being on stage. And they invited him back next year for even bigger crowds. And so my father, being a rather astute man, said, well, if we can do it with Myron Floren, maybe we can bring in other entertainers. And he always wanted the ethnic, the Norwegian, the Scandinavian background. But in order to draw these people in, entertainment became a big part. And so each year, they got bigger and bigger entertainers. We've had Andy Williams and Bob Hope and Red Skelton, George Burns. And so over the years, we've had these great entertainment, but we've never forgotten the whole idea of our ethnic background. And we, of course, have a don't ask, don't tell policy. If you just enjoy great entertainment, come on in. And there's a lot going on.
Well, I know that for a fact because I sat with your dad at a luncheon one time, and he asked me what my heritage was, and he said, well, but once a year, for 1 week of the year, you can come and be Scandinavian and be part of the Höstfest. And
Yes.
I'll never forget that. And but how many visitors do you have on average, and where do they come from?
They come, we average probably 10, 15,000 a day. They mainly come from the upper Midwest, but we get a lot of Canadian visitors. Canada is a big part of the Norse Kustfest. I don't know whether they're Norwegian or Scandinavian, but they come on down. But they come in from all over the United States, but mainly the Midwestern, and so it's been a real upper Midwest flavor to it, and that's where they come from.
Well, and also one thing that Minot has done, and mainly the Norse Höstfest, and probably mostly your dad, but the connection you've made with the Norwegian countries and Norway, you've had royalty show up.
We've had Princess Astrid show up twice, and we had the princess of the daughter of the king show up. She signed some books, and so we've had that sort of royalty connection. And then my father went over to receive from the King of Norway the St. Olaf medal, I think is what it was, and was pinned onto him by the King of Norway about 15 years ago. And my father just thought that was a real important part, and he was very, very honored for that.
Well, sure he was. And of course, now you've got a sister city, and I know they bring a lot of folks over
They had
also.
Shane in Norway, which is about an hour and a half southeast of Oslo, and they're bringing over about 40 people. So.
Well, let's talk about this year's attractions. Now, as you said, your dad always said you entertain them, and then you share the heritage with them. Who are your entertainers? What kinds of attractions do you have for this year?
Well, I think one of the ways that we try and get our entertainers is we watch a lot of Prairie Public Television. This year we have people that have shown up is Celtic Thunder and people like that. We have Abracadabra, Martina McBride, Jeff Foxworthy. And then one of my most prideful moments is when I made the Saturday afternoon the 60s party. And this year we have the Beach Boys coming, and looking forward to that. Last year we had people like B.J. Thomas and people like that. And so we made the Saturday afternoon, the 60s Flower Power, and we just, we looked for a lot of country western, a lot of new acts. It took a while for my father to finally realize that it was talked to him for many, many years. You got to bring this Danny O'Donnell in. He's always showing up on public TV, and he plays to big crowds, and my father could be stubborn every once in a while, and finally Pam Davey and a few other people said, no, let's give him a try. And of course, he's appeared there about 4 or 5 times, sells out, has been our #1 attraction. And once he realized that every once in a while, maybe he didn't know everything, and he brought in people like Danny O'Donnell, and he just placed a wonderful, wonderful entertainer. And so he does stuff like that.
Well, and you have a lot of great headline entertainers. Mm-hmm. But in addition to those, now what is nice, and those are in the what do you call the Great Hall.
Yeah.
But then you have these smaller venues and stages throughout where there's free entertainment.
One of the things that confuses a lot of people is when they buy the ticket and they get the Great Hall, they don't realize for the first time you get all these side stages. You know, we've had people like Bureau Holland and Charlie Pride, Williams and Ree. We get all sorts of Scandinavian people. We get polka people. And they're entertaining all the time. We have 3 side stages that people can see, they can sit, it's at no additional charge, and they can look, and they're entertained all the time, and they just move from one stage to another throughout the day. It takes at least 2 full days in order to see the entertainment that's there, and you should stay at least 3 days.
I remember my folks came up from Tennessee and saw the Oak Ridge Boys, and my mother was shocked that it was free.
Yeah, it was free.
But anyway, that said, you also have the Scandinavian Hall of Fame, something y'all started some years ago, I guess. I don't know if it started in year 1, but you have a Hall of Fame. And what is that for? What does that mean?
That is to honor Scandinavian people of great notice and are famous. And over the years, we've had people like Walter Mondale has been on there. Prairie Public Radio's John Yitzty was on there. We've had people like, one of my favorite one was Clint Hill. Mm-hmm. Now, Clint Hill, a lot of people didn't know, and when I would go around and invite people to hear him speak, I'd say, anybody know who Clint Hill is? And they all thought he was a country and western singer. No. Then I would explain to them, look at the Kennedy assassination, Dallas, 1963. You see a picture of a guy jumping on the back of the presidential limousine after Kennedy has been shot, and Jackie Kennedy is reaching for the back over the trunk, and the person hanging on is Clint Hill. And he says his greatest disappointment in life was he didn't get there 2 seconds early to take a bullet for the President of the United States. And we put him in the Hall of Fame, and he sold books, and he gave a story onto it, and people would just sit there and in awe, in quiet. And it was a touch of history that, for my generation, everybody knows where they were when President Kennedy was assassinated. Mm-hmm. And it was just wonderful. This year we have people like George Halverson, who's the used to be the president of the nation's largest managed care company and hospitals. We have the Dahlquist family. They come up with a bunt pan, and they've expanded. And I think one of my favorites this year is Robert Asp. Came out with the Hjelmkast and the Norwegian boat that they took across. He built it in Minnesota. And in fact, we had it before they put it in the museum. Father had it shipped up to Minot for the Norse Coast Fest. And so they're all 3 going to be inducted this year, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful ceremony. And I encourage people to get those tickets.
Mm-hmm. Well, now understand you're also welcoming the Norwegian Minister of Agriculture and Food to the festival. Can you talk about who she is and what's up with her visit?
Her visit is to talk about, of course, food and agriculture, but I need to give a little background. I just came back from Norway. It was kind of a part business, government, MADC, Monetary Development Corporation trip, and part Norskhustfest. And we talked with 4 businesses that were trying to get to come to Minot and take care of, build companies. One was a fertilizer plant, one was a plastic plant, one made rubber tubing, another one was fish farms. And we met with those people, 4 different meetings. And the number one word that came up with when we talked to them was sustainability. They have gone green. Norway has gone green. And they have to make use of every piece of energy that they can. And if you go to Norway, there are a lot of hills, a lot of mountains. They're not, snow-packed or anything. But the thing about Norway is it has a small area to grow food and agriculture. And after the defense of your borders, the number one thing a country looks for is to grow food. So they have gone out of their way to be as efficient and as green and environmentally correct as they can to grow the food that they need for their country. And so she's going to come over. She's got about 8 or 10 officials with her, and they're going to talk about sustainability, how they make it go with the little land, and it's going to be a very, very interesting thing. We have a business-to-business meeting Tuesday after September 29th that's going to talk about how agriculture is. Mm-hmm. And to say one other thing about Norway. America, of course, is in the midst of a presidential election, probably too early, but I keep telling everybody, after I've been to Norway, that one thing that everybody can agree on in the United States, conservative or liberal or whatever, appears to be they don't like the direction the country's going. Now, everybody has their own ideas how to fix it, but they don't like the direction that America is going. And you go over to Norway, and the one thing that all the Norwegians can agree on is they love the direction that Norway's going. For the last 5 years, it's been the happiest country in the world. And so they have worked out amongst themselves how to cooperate, how to be green, how to be economically, a powerful nation. And it's just wonderful to go over to Norway and see a wonderfully run country. And she's going to talk about that.
Well, that will be interesting. We look forward to that. A lot of other things here. Let's talk some. What is the Hustfest University?
That's where you can learn about rose mauling and wood cutting and ethnic background. And it's something new that we started last year, and it's growing. But take a look at the website, norskhustfest.com, and you can see what classes are being offered, and it's just something new, and we're really looking forward to a bigger and better year this year.
And of course, whether you're in the university or not, there's a lot of activities for you to go and see. I mean, you can see these being demonstrated all over. When I say all over, I'm thinking of the layout that you have with the different halls.
Oh, they have woodworking, they make cabinetry, rose mauling, clothes, spinning, things like that, and it's all over. It's over about 4 or 5 buildings. If you've been there one time, you know what I'm talking about. But if you've never been there before, it's one of those things you almost get lost because there's people coming and going, and what room is this? Where do I go for that? And so it's something that We got something going on all the time.
Well, in fact, I'm not sure. Did you even say where it is? I mean, it's on.
It's in Minot, North Dakota, at the All Seasons Arena, which is really the state fairgrounds. If you know where the state fairgrounds is, and you see a whole bunch of cars and RV heading that place, you're going in the right direction.
Yeah. What makes this 5-day event just so special? Do you think, Dave?
What it is, it's a festival, and it's a very happy festival. We have literally 4,000 volunteers that make this thing go. These are people from Minot or the Minot area, or they've come and they'll help direct you where you're going. They'll help serve food and make stuff. And it's all volunteer work. And we have 4,000 people. And it's a happy, peppy place.
Could you do it without volunteers?
We could not do it without volunteers. We couldn't even open up the doors without volunteers. There's 3 paid people that are on the salary for the Norse Coast Fest, and I'm not one of them. Otherwise, it's all volunteers, and it's so much fun. They enjoy doing it. They like to see people having a great time. And they are our #1 ambassadors that help make the Norse Coast Fest go.
And of course, the festival is very kid-friendly, isn't it?
It's very kid-friendly. We're trying to get more and more of the kids. We have people like Lego that will come. We have, last year was the one Frozen. Frozen was there, and which of course is the Walt Disney movie. And it was just, the young people came out and their grandmothers came out with them. And it was just so much fun to see that. And all the kids got into it. And then we have other games for them. And so we just really have a good time.
You know, what kind of feedback do you get back from the visitors? And do you use that for planning for the future?
One of the many reasons for the success of the Norse Coast Fest is that feedback is extremely important. At the end, within a couple, 3 weeks of the end of the Norse Coast Fest, everybody gathers together. All the volunteers, or actually it's the committee chairman, and they say, what worked? What didn't work? And so over the years, they have fine-tuned this thing from going from, a few hundred people at a Lutheran, let's sell the Rumagrout and Lutefisk, to tens of thousands of people spread over 2 or 3 buildings. It just grew little by little. They found things that worked, they kept them. If something didn't work, they got rid of it. For example, about 20 years ago, they made a major change. You used to be able to go to the Norse Coast Fest in the Great Hall, and you could plop your coat down, and you could stay there all day. And of course, people would get mad because, where are these people? So then they went to, they would split the concerts, that you could go to one concert, then everybody had to leave, and then they would bring in somebody else, assigned seating. And that was a major, major change. But it worked. And it's been one of the reasons for the success. So this feedback on a yearly basis is extremely important.
It is. Well, we're about to run out of time, but a couple other things. What's the economic impact that it has on the city of Minot?
It's a great economic impact. It keeps, they stay in hotels and go to shopping malls and things like that. And we encourage people to go out in the community and take a look.
Now, a couple other things here. What is the Chester? I wanted to get that working. What is that?
We have committee people. We have, what I didn't realize, I says, well, committee chairman. I said, well, the first time I took over about 3 or 4 years ago, I says, well, we got about 12 committee chairmen. We have 104. So each year we vote on who the committee chairman is, and then who the best volunteer is, and we give them a Chester.
Okay, so that's just a recognition
of volunteer work above and beyond.
Yeah. With that said, we talked about the food from the minister, but food is a big part of the festival.
It's huge. I mean, it's like walking down New York City. I mean, there's a restaurant or someplace to eat all over the place. And we have Scandinavian food. We have what we call entree. We have the Scandi. And we have people like Viking on the Stick and Rumograut. And we even have bratwurst. We serve everybody.
Well, you do. And then also there's a Viking village. In fact, you can go and actually see them performing there.
You can see them. They're Viking reenactors, and they love it. A lot of them, some of them come from Sweden, some of them come from Norway. We have about 50 or 60 people. They get dressed up in all the garb. We've moved them to a different building. They have their ethnic village and everything like that, and it's just a lot of fun.
And there's just so much going on. So, David, if people want more information, where can they go? Who can they contact?
They go to norskustfest.com, NORSKSOST.com, and you can get tickets, you can get more information. It's a lot of fun. It's family orientated. Come and have a great time.
David Wrighton, Chairman of the Board, Norsk Høstfest, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Post this week, and as always, thanks for watching.
Funded by the members of Prairie Public.